The connection was supposed to last 12 minutes. No applause, no studio audience, just two screens. One question and a silence that felt heavier than any shout. And within minutes, a single sentence from Piers Morgan would turn a remote interview into one of the most explosive confrontations British television had seen in years. By the end of this broadcast, only one of them would still be talking. And it wouldn't be the one with the title. The red live indicator blinked on. In the London studio, Piers Morgan sat upright behind his desk, hands loosely folded, expression neutral but alert. The city lights behind him shimmered softly, calm and indifferent to what was about to unfold. On the massive screen opposite him appeared Prince Harry. No palace backdrop, no flags, just a carefully curated room, muted colors, books arranged just right, a ceremonial object on a shelf behind him. Harry wore a dark suit jacket, white shirt open at the collar. Casual, controlled, almost bored. Prince Harry, Piers began evenly. "Thank you for joining us." Harry nodded once. Not a smile, not a greeting. "Let's get straight to it," Piers continued. "You've spoken extensively about your experiences with the royal family, the media, and what you describe as ongoing persecution. Many viewers feel they've heard this story before. Why should they listen again tonight?" Harry's jaw tightened immediately. "Well," he said, leaning slightly toward his camera. "Because the truth doesn't expire just because you're tired of hearing it, Piers." A murmur rippled through the control room. Piers didn't blink. "Fair enough," he replied calmly. "But some would argue that revisiting the same grievances, books, interviews, documentaries, begins to look less like truthtelling and more like a strategy." Harry scoffed, a short, dismissive sound. "That's rich," he shot back, "coming from someone who's built an entire career attacking me and my wife." Piers raised an eyebrow. "I've criticized you?" "Yes, because criticism is not abuse. It's accountability." Harry leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "There it is," he said. "That's smug certainty. You sit there pretending you're some neutral arbiter when you've made it perfectly clear you despise us." Piers nodded slowly. "I don't despise you, Harry. I question you." "There's a difference." Harry laughed, sharp and humorless. "Funny," he said, "because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly the same." The tension was already palpable, and they were barely 5 minutes in. Piers shifted slightly, voice still measured. "Let's talk about responsibility. You've spoken about mental health, trauma, and healing. Yet, every time you speak publicly, the fallout affects your family, your brother, your father. Do you ever question whether continuing this narrative causes more harm than good?" Harry's eyes flashed. "Absolutely not," he snapped. "What causes harm is silence. What causes harm is people like you telling victims to move on because it makes you uncomfortable." Piers leaned forward just a fraction. "Are you calling yourself a victim, Harry?" The pause was razor sharp. "I'm calling myself someone who survived," Harry replied coldly. "And if that bothers you, maybe ask yourself why." The control room went still. Piers exhaled softly, then said, "Survived what exactly?" "Privilege, wealth, global platforms." Harry's voice hardened. "You don't get to define my pain, and you don't get to weaponize it," Piers replied. Harry's posture stiffened. His politeness, thin as it was, began to crack. "This is exactly why I didn't want to do this interview," he said. "You're not interested in understanding. You're interested in humiliation." Piers shook his head. "No, I'm interested in clarity." And many viewers are wondering why clarity always seems to come with another contract. Harry leaned forward again, eyes blazing into the camera. "You think this is about money?" he snapped. "That says more about you than it does about me." Piers didn't raise his voice. He didn't interrupt. He waited. And that silence calculated, deliberate, did more damage than any insult. Finally, he spoke. "Harry," he said quietly, "when does telling your story become telling it at people?" Harry's lips parted, then pressed together. For the first time, he didn't answer immediately. The screen between them suddenly felt very thin, and everyone watching knew this was no longer an interview. It was a collision, and it was only beginning. The silence after Pierce's last question lingered longer than it should have. Harry stared into the camera, jaw clenched, eyes fixed, not blinking, not backing down. When does telling your story become telling it at people? Piers had asked. Harry finally exhaled, a sharp breath through his nose. Asterisk, "You really don't hear yourself, do you?" he said. "You frame everything as an attack, as if speaking up is some sort of crime." Piers responded instantly. Speaking up isn't the issue. Repeating the same accusations without accountability is. Harry laughed again, louder this time, deliberately dismissive. "There it is again," he said. "That word, accountability. You love that word because it lets you sound principled while doing exactly what you've always done, undermining people you don't like." Piers didn't flinch. "I challenge people who make claims, especially when those claims change institutions, damage reputations, and then conveniently come with another media rollout." Harry leaned forward, so close to the camera, his shoulders nearly filling the frame. "You're obsessed," he said coldly. "You've been obsessed with us for years. You lost your job over it, remember?" The control room sucked in a collective breath. Pierce's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in focus. "I lost a job because I refused to say I believed something I didn't," he replied calmly. "And I'd do it again." Harry smirked. "Of course you would. Martyrdom seems to be your brand now." Piers tilted his head. "Interesting you'd say that." Harry froze just for a fraction of a second. "You've accused the royal family, the British press, and even the public of cruelty," Piers continued. "Yet anyone who questions your version of events is immediately labeled hateful or toxic. Isn't that convenient?" Harry shook his head slowly. "No, it's accurate. Is it?" Piers pressed. "Or is it just easier than answering uncomfortable questions?" Harry's voice sharpened. "You don't get to decide what's uncomfortable for me. But you expect the world to absorb your discomfort endlessly." Piers shot back. "That's the contradiction." Harry leaned back again, crossing his arms tightly. "This is exactly why people don't trust mainstream media anymore," he said. "You provoke, then pretend you're just asking questions." Piers raised a hand slightly. "I'm not pretending anything. I'm asking why your healing always seems to require a microphone." Harry's eyes flashed. "You think healing is silent," he snapped. "You think trauma just disappears if you stop talking about it." "No," Piers replied evenly. "I think healing usually moves forward. Yours seems to stay right here." He tapped the desk. Year after year, the air thickened. Harry's smile vanished completely now. "You know nothing about my life," he said. "Nothing about what it's like to be hunted since birth." Piers leaned forward, voice still controlled. "I know what it's like to be criticized. I know what it's like to be challenged. And I know the difference between being attacked and being disagreed with." Harry shook his head. "You always do this. You reduce lived experience into a debate club exercise, and you reduce criticism into persecution." Piers replied. Harry's hands moved now, small, sharp gestures he couldn't fully control. "This is a setup," he said. "You invited me on to ambush me." Piers didn't deny it. "I invited you on to answer questions," he said. "You seem angry that I'm not applauding." Harry's voice rose. "Because you're not listening?" "I am listening," Piers said. "I'm just not nodding." That line hit. Harry went still. For a moment, it looked like he might actually disconnect. His eyes flicked briefly off camera toward someone in the room with him, a handler perhaps, a producer, someone unseen. Then he looked back. "You know," Harry said slowly, dangerously calm, "I don't need to be here. I agreed to this conversation in good faith." Piers nodded. "You're free to leave at any time." Harry's lips tightened. "But before you do," Piers added, "answer one thing honestly." Harry didn't respond. "When will you stop defining yourself by what you walked away from?" Piers asked, "and start being defined by what you're actually building?" The question landed like a weight. Harry opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time since the broadcast began, he hesitated. The silence stretched. And in that silence, something shifted. This wasn't just about interviews anymore. It was about control, and Harry was starting to lose it. The silence after Piers's question was no longer dramatic. It was dangerous. Harry sat frozen on the screen, lips pressed together, eyes sharp with calculation, the kind of look that came right before a decision: fight or flee. "You're not interested in answers," Harry finally said. "You're interested in framing?" Piers didn't raise his voice. He didn't smile. "I'm interested in clarity," he replied. "You confuse the two because clarity threatens your narrative." Harry let out a short, humorless laugh. "Listen to yourself," he said. "You talk like you're the moral authority on suffering." "No," Piers corrected him. "I talk like someone who's tired of selective outrage." Harry leaned forward again, this time gripping the armrest beside him. "You have no idea what it costs to walk away from power," he snapped. "From security, from everything you've ever known." Piers nodded slowly. "And yet, you've monetized that walk very effectively." That was the sentence. Harry's face hardened instantly. "Say that again," he said. "I said," Piers repeated calmly, "that your exit from the royal family has become a business model." Harry exploded. "That is disgusting," he barked. "You sit there comfortable, smug, while questioning my motives like this is some intellectual game." Piers didn't flinch. "You sign deals," he said. "Books, shows, podcasts, interviews. You chose the spotlight after you left it." Harry shook his head violently. "We didn't choose anything. We were forced into it. Then why keep returning?" Piers asked. "Why not build quietly?" Harry raised his voice. "Because silence protects abusers." The studio lights seemed to burn hotter. Piers paused for just a beat before responding. "Or," he said carefully, "silence protects peace." Harry scoffed. "Easy for you to say. I'm not the one claiming I want privacy." Piers shot back. That landed hard. Harry's jaw clenched, his nostrils flared. He looked away again, off camera for longer this time. A muffled voice could be heard in the background on Harry's end. Someone whispering urgently. He turned back, visibly irritated. "This is exactly what they warned me about," Harry said, "that you would twist everything." Piers leaned back in his chair. Then he asked, "Who is they this week?" Harry's eyes burned. "The people who actually know you." "Oh," Piers replied dryly. "That narrows it down." The audience murmured. Harry pointed at the camera. "You've built an entire career on antagonizing people you don't understand." "No," Piers corrected him. "I antagonize people who refuse scrutiny." Harry laughed sharply. "Scrutiny? You mean hostility?" "I mean questions," Piers said. "Something you seem comfortable asking of institutions, but not receiving yourself." Harry stood up slightly from his chair before catching himself and sitting back down. His breathing was heavier now. "You think this is clever?" he said. "Cornering me, making me react." Piers tilted his head. "I think you came on expecting sympathy, and you're angry you're getting skepticism." Harry's voice dropped, low and dangerous. You don't get to interrogate my trauma. I'm not interrogating your trauma, Piers replied. I'm interrogating your consistency, Harry snapped. There it is again. You people love that word, consistency, as if human pain is linear. Pain isn't, Piers agreed. But credibility is. That was it. Harry slammed his hand down off screen, the movement jolting the camera slightly. I will not sit here and be lectured by you, he shouted. You are not neutral. You are not fair. You are obsessed. Piers leaned forward for the first time, voice still calm but firm. And you are not persecuted, he said. You are challenged. Harry's eyes widened. There's a difference, Piers continued. And tonight, you're proving you can't handle it. The control room erupted in motion. Producers waved frantically. Someone counted down seconds. Harry stared straight into the lens. You know what? He said. I don't need this. This is toxic. Piers nodded once. Then leave. Harry hesitated. The connection wavered for half a second. The screen glitched. Harry looked off camera again, this time clearly arguing with someone. His mic picked up fragments. No, I'm done. This is pointless. I'm not staying. Piers waited, silent, unmoving. Finally, Harry looked back. You've had your moment, he said. Enjoy it. Piers replied softly. This isn't my moment. He paused. It's yours. Harry froze. And for the first time all night, he had no comeback. The silence screamed. The silence stretched too long. Not the dramatic kind television loves, the uncomfortable kind that makes producers sweat and audiences lean forward. Harry sat frozen on the screen. His face stiff, jaw locked, eyes no longer scanning for openings. Asterisk, the performance was over. What remained was irritation, raw, unfiltered. You think you've won, Harry finally said. Piers didn't respond immediately. He folded his hands, studying Harry with an expression that wasn't smug or satisfied, but strangely neutral. This isn't a competition, Piers replied. It's a conversation you can't control. Harry scoffed. I don't need to control anything. Then why are you so angry? Piers asked quietly. Harry inhaled sharply through his nose. Because people like you never listen, he snapped. You decide who I am before I even open my mouth. No, Piers corrected him. I listen very carefully. That's the problem. Harry's eyes flickered. You twist everything, he said. You reduce real pain to sound bites. Piers leaned forward slightly, voice steady, and you inflate personal grievance into moral authority. Harry's mouth opened, then closed. For a moment, it looked like he might regain composure. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his posture, forced a calm smile that didn't reach his eyes. Let's be clear, Harry said. This conversation is exactly why I don't engage with hostile media anymore. Piers raised an eyebrow. And yet, here you are. Harry's smile cracked. I came here in good faith, he said. To talk about healing. It ended up defending your brand, Piers replied. That word again, brand. Harry shook his head. You are obsessed with discrediting us. Piers shook his head back. I'm obsessed with honesty. Harry leaned closer to the camera. You know nothing about honesty, he said. You've never lived under constant threat. You've never had to protect your family. Piers' voice lowered. Protection doesn't require endless public warfare, he said. Sometimes it requires restraint. Harry laughed bitterly, spoken like someone who's never been silenced. Piers' eyes hardened for the first time that night. No, he said, spoken like someone who knows when silence speaks louder than accusation. The audience felt it even through screens, even across oceans. Harry exhaled sharply, rubbing his temple. This is pointless, he muttered. Piers didn't interrupt. Harry looked off camera again. This time, there was no whispering, just visible frustration. His shoulders rose and fell. When he turned back, his tone had changed, cold, defensive, final. "You invited me here under the pretense of dialogue," Harry said. "But this has been an ambush. Questions aren't ambushes unless you fear the answers." Piers responded evenly. Harry snapped back. "You think you're clever. I think you're cornered," Piers replied. That did it. Harry's chair scraped loudly as he stood up fully, the sudden movement causing a slight shake in the video feed. "I will not sit here and be dissected by someone who's made a career out of attacking my wife and my family," Harry said, his voice rising. Piers remained seated. "I criticize behavior," he said, "not marriages." Harry pointed at the screen. "You've insulted us for years." "I've challenged contradictions," Piers corrected him. "There's a difference." Harry's face flushed. "You don't get to decide that," he snapped. "No," Piers replied. "The audience does." Harry froze. For a split second, something vulnerable flashed across his face. Not anger, not arrogance, fear. The realization that this wasn't going the way he expected. "You know what?" Harry said suddenly. "This is exactly the toxicity I walked away from." Piers nodded slowly. "Then walking away again shouldn't be hard." The studio gasped. Harry stared at him, stunned. "You're unbelievable," Harry said. "I'm consistent," Piers replied. Harry shook his head, disbelief turning into fury. "You want the last word?" he said. "You always do."